my people, and if you're watching live, checking us out on YouTube, or listening on your favorite podcast provider, you are most definitely my people. Welcome to another episode of Botched Pots and Chair Shots. I'm your host, a chef by trade and a mark by choice. I am the Will Gray, and joining me tonight is a former WWE and OVW star. You've seen him everywhere from Ring of Honor to MLW. He is Mike Mondo. Mike, thanks for coming on, chat about some wrestling, brother. How are you?
Hey, man, how you doing? Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Man, I'm glad we could work this out, get it knocked out. So I always kind of start these kind of the same way, man. What's going on new with you in 2022 right now?
Yeah, man, a lot's going on right now. Actually, I just became the head trainer at the NYWC Pro Wrestling School here in Long Island, New York. Started a few weeks ago and just having a great time. A lot of potential that I'm seeing there. And that's pretty much the biggest thing. Just doing that, a lot of seminars. I'm actually getting back in the ring. I had a little health scare, but I'm good to go now. Everything's fine. I'm healthy. So I had to take a little time off in the ring physically, but I'll be back in February to the Psycho Circus at NYWC, and then I'm going to Italy in March. So I'm looking forward to that. So I'm kind of looking to get the ball going from February on. So, I know it's kind of early to plug, to book me, but if you want to book me from February on, you got the Mike Mondo at gmail.com. So that's pretty much what's going on for me for the most part. Just staying active, giving back to the wrestling business and, doing what I got to do to help other people start a career.
So right before we went on air, we were just kind of chatting a little bit about it, but you mentioned the Mondo Boot Camp. What's going on there? Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, man. Mondo Boot Camp, a little service that, I provided for everybody out there. You only get in the ring. You only get better in this business by getting in the ring with people that are better than you or have more experience. And I've been in the business for over 20 years now. I've been all around the world, wrestling for WWE, OVW, Ring of Honor. Pretty much almost every major promotion out there. So with that being said, provided a little service here, Mondo Boot Camp. Pick the Mind of Mondo, hashtag that. And send me your match, and I'll dissect it from A to Z to the bone. You'll give you the pros, give you the cons, point out all the little things that you need to do to be a better wrestler, stuff that the WWE is looking for, the body language, the little things, the facial expressions, the psychology of a match, the promo. I'll go through everything A through Z, and of course have a Q&A with you at the end for any questions that you may have. It's only $20, themikemondo at gmail.com, or DM me at the Mike Mondo on Twitter, and look forward to working with you.
I have to ask because as I jokingly call myself a chef by trade and a mark by choice, I am very much a guest in the wrestling business as much as the boys allow me to be. When you're looking at it like that, do you feel like it's still as important in 2022 as it was in the territory days going back before even you started for the veterans to help these young guys get over, to talk about their matches, to come to them and say, hey, what can I do to be better? How important is that for these young guys to come to you guys as the veterans?
Oh, it's extremely important. Because if you it's like if you get in the ring with someone that's equal experience with you or less, you guys are kind of on the same playing field. You need to have that experienced veteran that's been there, that's done that, that's made the mistakes. I've made every mistake. When I watch matches and I critique them, I go, yeah, I've done that. Well, I've done that, and I've done it a lot worse. So, but it's a matter of doing it, making the mistakes, and learning from the mistakes, and having those experienced veterans that have been there, done that, to explain to you, that's not right. This is the reason why, so you don't go out there and do the same thing. And that's why, it's like in anything, the longer you're in something, the better you get, so it's like, why not get a head start and try to do what you got to do to pick the brains of those that have been before you. And, just that's how you get better. And that's where the car rides come in. Back in the territory days, we don't really have the car rides too often now with the territories because it's just a different era. But, that's where the seminars come into play, the service that I'm providing with the Mondo Boot Camp, so you get that just like how it was back in the day. So, yeah, very important.
Having a chance to transition from you're still doing in-ring work, but being such a prominent trainer right now, what was that transition like for you?
It wasn't too hard. I've been a trainer for many, many years. I remember when I first went down to OVW, and we can talk about that a little later, but, I was kind of thrown in the training role quite early in my career. So I kind of got my feet wet with that pretty early. Being a trainer actually also helps me perform as a performer it makes me better, because I'm seeing things, I'm going over the basics and the fundamentals and the psychology every single day with my students. So it's almost like a reminder for me, oh, okay, it's done this way, and it's all about getting that repetition, whether it's physically and mentally. And so, yeah, I think it's, make the transition pretty easy. And, there's a lot of great wrestlers out there and there's a lot of great coaches, but there's very few great wrestlers and great coaches, not to, I don't want. I'm not one to put myself over, but I'm trying to stay humble here. But I feel like I got both qualities. You know what I mean? And I just said my resume speaks for itself. I think, and it's just a great blessing for me. I'm very happy to do it.
Let's take a look back at it. I always like to, when I do these, I like to kind of walk through everybody's career and kind of that way we can see who the person was as the worker from the beginning of their career through the end of it. So let's talk about your training. Where did you get your first exposure to training? How did you go about getting into the training process? Like, what was that like for you?
Yeah, I went to an independent show when I was 18 years old, and I just there was intermission and people were getting in the ring, and I'm like, well, hey, man, I always wanted to get in the ring, so I'm gonna freaking get in the damn ring, and take some bumps and hit the ropes, and just kind of live in the moment, for a little bit, be a fan come to life, And when I did that, someone took notice, and because they thought I was a wrestler, and when I was doing that, they thought I was in the business, and I'm like, no, I'm not in the business at all. I actually just started college. I'm a football player, but I do have aspirations to get in the business one day, And they gave me his card and everything like that, and I was like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna go check this out. Nothing was really happening for me football wise at the time when I was in college. And I'm like, and I might as well start as young as I can, put myself in the best position to succeed. So I went down. There was it was Critical Mass Pro Wrestling, which is now called NYWC today, in Hicksville, Long Island, and like a little dingy garage that just has a lot of character to it, And I remember walking in there on a Thursday night, and everyone's kind of staring at me. I met the owner, John Kirst. He was my original trainer, and Mike Mayhem, and pretty much signed the papers there. And I started the following Tuesday. So, I started down there in Hicksville at NYWC, and I was down there for about 8 months total. Every Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, that was my wrestling my wrestling classes, and that's how I started.
How similar are those classes to how you start your classes now? Is there any similarities? Did you take anything from the first days in your training to where you're at now? Is there anything left? Or have you just kind of all adapted to become who you are in 2022?
Yeah, I kind of adapted to who I am in 2022. I probably don't do too much when I was, because I remember I got to think hard, but we did a lot of moves. I remember, and the moves came naturally to me because I just emulated what I saw on TV, and even my trainer was like, "Wow, man, this kid's gonna be freaking good one day," But I really didn't learn how to work, Why they gave me the foundation at YWC, I don't want to discredit that, you know what I'm saying? But when it clicked for me was when I went to OVW. That's where I really learned how to incorporate the moves at the right place at the right time of the match and the psychology. And I'm like, oh, so a light bulb goes off. This is how it's supposed to be done, And then through my experience that I got in New York, as well as my OVW experience from the several different trainers and bookers that came through when I was there, I kind of incorporated that and implemented that and started, passing down the knowledge. And then as my experience grew, whatever I learned, I just kept passing down. So, that's the whole idea of it, keep giving back and stuff like that to those that came before you.
When you were kind of going through that training process and working with some of these guys, you crossed paths with Mikey Whipwreck. He's kind of an infamous name in the wrestling business. What was it like when you had a chance to work with Mikey?
I love Mikey, man. He's not only a peer, but just we became friends, especially when we started working together. Mikey is a guy that, gosh, I remember when I was so green. We just had a match, and he took me by the hand and just led me through it A through Z, and just to get that type of experience. And that was an example of getting in the ring with people that are better than you. And Mikey elevated me that night, and he made me better. And then down the road, years later, we crossed paths again, and we had I think a 3-match series. And again, it was one of those things where it was refreshing, and it was nice because I was getting in there with someone with more experience than me. And I was like, I'm going to take this opportunity. If I could pick up one thing, or 10 things, whatever it may be. But I was like, this is pretty damn cool, and we had great matches. We actually had really good chemistry, and the people were into it. Mikey was happy with the matches, which made me feel good because I didn't want to disappoint him. And he just has a great reputation, great guy, and great career. And I hope I run into him down the road again.
I always like hearing the stories about that when you hear two guys cross paths, just two genuinely good people in the business. So you've mentioned it now. Let's get into OVW. When you kind of got into, and I'm just going to call it the system, and by that I mean the WWE system. As you started climbing through their developmental in OVW, let's start there. What was it like for you getting into OVW?
It was freaking my first big break in the wrestling business. I remember when I was home, there was a tryout camp that was online, and it was $1,000 to get down there and do it for a week. And I'm like, you know what? WWE is the place that I've always wanted to be. This is the farm system, the developmental system here, and this is where I need to be. So I talked to my parents. We made it happen. I went down there and I did the best I could. It was run by Dr. Tom Pritchard, Jim Cornette, Danny Davis, Rip Rogers. I think Rocky Johnson was down there at the time. And I just gave it my all, And when I got home, 2 days later, I got a call from Jim Cornette. And he said, Mike, and we were impressed by with what you did. We think you got a lot of potential. We're not going to hire you, but we want you to come down and train with the advanced class. You can get a job down here, to support yourself. And that's how I started. And I finished my semester in college. And then packed my bags with nothing pretty much and moved to Louisville, Kentucky to pursue a dream. So that's where it all started. My first trainer when I went down there was Rip Rogers, who was a friend of mine and a mentor to me this day. Still learn from him, ask him questions, whether it's about training or performing. It just the wealth of knowledge and really like gave me the love, taught me how to work and be the guy who I am today. So that's where it all started. Any other questions on OVW? Because I mean that's a very bold topic. I got a lot of info, you know what I mean? But that's how I got down there. So yeah.
When you got in there and you started to go through that process, the OVW locker room was stacked. I mean, you've seen people like Sean Spears, Cody Rollins or Rhodes, or whichever version you want to, plus you mentioned you had the Dr. Tom Pritchard, you had Jim Cornette, some of the guys to pick their brains. What was it like having just going from the indies to breaking into OVW, and it's like going into this wealth of just wrestling knowledge at just there to be picked?
Well, I always put OVW, and I always say to this day, it's like entering the Harvard School of Pro Wrestling. I mean, you're going. It's a professional atmosphere. Like you're at the real deal. You're at the big leagues. I mean, that's where it's at. And I knew the opportunity that I had. And I even made a point to myself, I'm going to make the most of this because this isn't a place that anybody can just come down, walk through the doors and get that kind of opportunity. And especially since it was granted to me at such a young age, I was like, I really need to embrace this and, pick this up as best as I can, as fast as I can, and that was my goal. So what did I do? I just became a sponge, and whenever opportunity was available, I made sure to pursue it. I always asked a lot of questions. I tried to be the first person there, the last person to leave. And I just worked as hard as I can, and just did the best I could. It was a very long day for me because practice would start at 8 a.m. and end sometimes at 4 p.m. And then I got to go to the gym. I got to go to my job. And then I got to, get whatever hours of sleep and do it all over again the next day. It was a full-time job, pretty much. And so, yeah, I mean, like just doing that, like with Rip Rogers and learning how to book with Jim Cornette and doing TV and getting the TV experience every Wednesday night and then doing house shows on the weekend, Friday and Saturday, sometimes Sunday. So, it was pretty much, it was for the territories not being around anymore today, it was probably like one of the last territories that were around. That's how they ran things, and that's exactly what it was. So just to get that experience, of doing it five days a week, 6 days a week, it was very, very cool.
Speaking on Jim Cornette, just out of curiosity, what was it like working with such a polarizing figure in the business? He's branded as being one of the best managers and mouthpieces in history. What was it like when you had a chance to work with him, though, and for him to critique you and to have a chance to learn from somebody who's, love him or hate him, been so important inside the business?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I first got there, I was kind of intimidated and a little scared, because I'm like an 18-year-old kid. And I'm like, shit, man, I'm working for Jim Cornette right now, and this is somebody I watched on TV growing up, and I knew the respect he had and the credentials he had. And I'm just like, man, I really don't want to mess this up, But then, as you get there, you get your feet wet. Your confidence starts to build the more you go to class and keep learning and getting better. And finally, when Jim, he threw me out there, I remember when I saw my name on the piece of paper for my first dark match, I'm like, well, all right, it starts tonight, and I got back from that dark match, and Jim was luckily a fan of the match, and I went by my real name that match, Mike Brenly, and he wasn't a fan of the name, but he came up with, I credit him because he's the guy that came up with Mike Mondo, Mike Mondo, the Giant Killer, and that's been my name since. So, yeah, I just, it's one of those things, you just, sometimes it's out of your hands. You just got to go out there and do the best you can. And if you come back and get yelled at, you just got to know that you're getting yelled at for good reason. It's going to get you, to get better. Not that like he hates you personally or anything like that. But to get his knowledge and to get his experience. And especially for me, because when I was really young, I lacked in promos. The work kind of came natural to me, but the promos is what I struggle with. So to ask questions and to get that experience, and for him to give me feedback on, one of the best promos in the business, obviously. And so that helped elevate that area, for me. But it was really, really cool. We grew a relationship that just got stronger ever since. Yeah, I credit Jim for giving me pretty much most, if not all, my breaks in the wrestling business. Because a lot of it, in this business, who and right place, right time, and a lot of things you can't control. But Jim was a guy that always believed in me, put me in the right position to succeed. That went on with Ring of Honor later on. He got me there. He got me helped get me a job at WWE. He was the guy that put me in the position to become a trainer at OVW. So, it was just really, I just didn't want to let him down. All these things that had happened over the years. I'm like, but you know what? I just say to myself, just got to do the best you can. That's all you can control,
So during your time at OVW, you spoke on the TV tapings, but you also said house shows. How much of a difference is it for you as a performer and as a trainer when you're either working a match or producing a match for a house show, or working a match or producing a match for a TV taping? What's the biggest difference you do when you're planning both matches?
Yeah, well, a TV taping, that's your advertisement for the house shows. That's how you try to fill in, the people at the house shows by watching the TV program. So, you're dealing with two different animals. With TV, it's you got time cues, and then you got pieces of the business that you need to get across at a match. You got, what was I gonna say here? You got. You got your camera angles, and you got to know how to work the camera. You got a lot more promos on TV. Whether it's backstage vignettes selling for the next town to what you're doing that weekend, or whether it's in-ring promo. So it's definitely two different animals. Where a house show is a lot more relaxed. You can kind of go out there and just work. And, if you go over a little bit, it's not like it's the end of the world. You're not dealing with thousands of dollars, like if you go over on TV or anything like that, and you got to make up that time. So yeah, it's just two different areas of expertise. And, but yeah, I enjoyed doing producing matches for TV there, and I enjoyed wrestling TV. But yeah, it's just definitely two different animals for sure.
Okay, so after OVW, you got the call up, and you guys are getting ready to go up to the main roster. What was your nerve level like when you were like, "Oh shit, I'm going to the show now"?
Yeah, man. Actually, I was relieved. I was very relieved. Yeah, I was relieved because, and I'll tell you why. It's because I was at a point in time. I was signed at that point for like maybe 2 or 3 years. Paul Heyman was booking at the time, and he really wasn't doing anything with me on TV, and I was kind of in limbo. I was trying different gimmicks and characters and nothing. I was throwing shit against the wall, but the problem was nothing was sticking, and I was kind of lost, and I wasn't fearing for my job or anything like that because I knew, eventually the right thing would come across and I'll run with the ball. And fortunately for me, that's when the Spirit Squad came about and they pitched me the idea, and I was like, wow, finally I got some direction here. I know what they want right now. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, I can just now take the ball and kind of run with it here. I got a clue what I'm doing, So that's what I did, and pretty much embraced the opportunity when I got it, and became one of the 5 guys, to do the gimmick.
When you guys were doing the run as a Spirit Squad, you guys had a tag title run, and you got to implement a cool kind of a unique rule in wrestling with the Freebird rule, where you had 5 guys wearing the title, and how was that, like, planning wise for the 5 of you? Did you guys know ahead of time, okay, it was going to be you and Nick for this match, or it was going to be Nick and somebody else? Like, how did that go about planning that using such a unique rule like the Freebird rule, where there was 5 guys wearing 2 belts?
Yeah, that's what they did. They wanted us to do the Freebird rule, and pretty much, it was cool because we've all worked together except for Mitch. We're together in OVW for so long, together. So we've wrestled each other thousands of times. It's not like we didn't know who we were, or who each other were, and we're all actually pretty much, for the most part, all pretty good friends. So it was comfortable. We had that comfort level, whatever combination that you put together, we know that we're going to get a solid outing, because it's not like it's the first time we ever got in the ring with each other. We all had that chemistry and stuff. I probably had the best chemistry with Kenny, and we did the run later on again in 2016, and so many independents together after that. And Kenny's just the guy that I just felt comfortable with. We had that chemistry. He's one of those guys that we didn't have to say a word. We just looked at each other and we knew where we were going, and we just had good matches. And but I enjoyed working with Jeter, Dolph. We had good matches. We worked together a lot in FCW. Actually helped train Dolph at the very beginning. So I seen him grow from the ground up. When Lance Storm was here, I was helping him out with that. And it's just been really cool. Anytime you get the Freebird rules, you can be a little bit more creative.
During this title run, you were in the match when the title change happened, and you actually dropped the belts to Piper and Flair that night. What was that like? I mean, looking back at it now, to have an opportunity at that point in your career to work with literally 2 of the GOATs. They're on the top of everybody's list. They're always at the top of the Mount Rushmores. What was it like working with Piper and Flair?
It was a dream come true, man. Those are 2 guys that I watched and was a big fan of growing up. That was like my childhood hero. My childhood wrestlers coming to life. I'm like, wow, I'm not watching them anymore. I'm actually in the ring wrestling them. This is freaking unreal, And that's the thing about the Spirit Squad, is that it was a Vince McMahon idea. So you knew it was going to get pushed to the moon. And that's exactly what happened, because as soon as we got there, they threw us right into the main events. And everything happened so fast. I think we were a couple weeks in, before you know it, we're winning the tag belts against Kane and Big Show. And then after that, we're working with DX, Shawn Michaels, and Hunter, and then putting Flair in the mix, because sometimes one of those guys would take the weekend off on house shows, and Flair would take their place. And then, after that, we're working with the legends, Dusty Rhodes, Ron Simmons, Roddy Piper, Ric Flair. God, I don't know if I'm missing anybody else off the top of my head right now, but the whole point is, that's fucking thousands of years of experience. I'm a boy here in a man's world. I was 23 at the time, and I was just like, I need to embrace this opportunity, kind of like how I felt in OVW when I got that chance, because this is definitely something that ain't gonna come around probably ever again. Because when I was up there working them, that was kind of like the tail end of their careers. A lot of them retired after that. And that's really where I learned how to draw money, and work main events, and just to be the best wrestler that I can be, just from learning from them, because they've been there, done that, get in the ring with people that are better than you, more experienced, and it was just a dream come true. So it was surreal. It was very cool. The fan came out of me a little bit, but then when the bell rings, you kind of get back into professional mode, and it's all business from there.
So, out of curiosity, what was your first encounter with Vince McMahon like?
My first encounter with Vince McMahon was, we went to TV, and we had a dark match that night because they wanted to see the gimmick and you know, full force. And Johnny Ace said, "Okay, we're gonna go meet with Vince, and he wants to meet you guys." I was like, "All right, sweet, let's meet the big man." So we get in the elevator, and Johnny Ace is in the elevator with us, and he's like, "All right, you only get one chance to make a first impression, and we already had a plan, that because we knew that and that we were going to kind of make that first impression. So we came up with this little idea when the elevator finally opened. I had the air horn with me, and I freaking started blowing that thing off, in the arena. And all five of us started running into Vince's office at TV, and we all get in line, and we're like, "Vinny, I'm Kenny, Johnny, Mitch, Nikki, and Mikey. We are the Spirit Squad. We got spirit. Yes, we do. We got spirit. How about you?" And then I took the air horn right in his face and go, I was thinking he's going to love it. He's going to hate it. He's going to tell me to get the fuck out, or he's going to freaking be like, "All right, we're going to freaking run with this, And he looked down at us, he took off his glasses, and he's like, "Yeah, this is going to work," And so that was my first meeting, my first encounter with Vince McMahon. And he actually had the idea to put us on TV that night because I guess he was a fan that, we just kind of made that impression on him, but we ended up not debuting that night. We had a dark match, but we killed it, and we debuted shortly after that.
What was the locker room like coming out of that? You're in that transition period from the end of the Attitude Era, the Ruthless Aggression Era, that early 2000s, that 05, 06, 07 range. What was the locker room like back then?
It definitely different than now, that's for sure. There was a lot more guys that had experience under their belt, a lot more veterans, a lot of testosterone running around, for sure. And it was a funky situation because, I'm in a locker room with the guys that have been there for, years and years. And, a lot of the guys have even done the territories and stuff like that. And, you get five guys pulled up to the main roster, you get thrown in the main events right away, you get your group of people that are happy for you, but then you kind of get the group of people that are kind of like, all right, who are these freaking young punks, coming in and, kind of going to the top, and, sometimes not gonna lie, they made it very hard for us, sometimes the locker room, and try to get in your head, doing some ribs and stuff like that, and you're just a young kid, you're happy to be there, and you're finally making a living, getting paid, doing what you love to do. And you just kind of want to steer clear of all that, but you just freaking face it every single freaking day, and, it's just one of those things where you just take it, and just don't sell it. You don't put it over, and eventually it passes. It's when you sell it and put it over that just keep messing with you and keep trying to get in your head and everything like that. But, for the most part, I got along with everybody. I was an OVW guy. So many guys have came through there and visited, when they were hurt or whatever like that. So I got to know the guys before I even went up there. I had a good reputation. I was always trying to be respectful and just do my job. You know what I mean? So for the most part, my experience was good up there, Mm-hmm.
So after you got through your run on the main talent, you, let's say, as we phase back into the indie scene after your run in WWE, what were the biggest differences you saw after being in the indies before, going through your WWE run, and then going back out onto the indies? What were the biggest?
My impression from the indies when I came back to, as opposed to the indies when I first started?
Correct.
Okay. That's a good question. I'm going to think about that one here for a second. Honestly, I felt more like the old guy on the indies now, the second time around. When I was there in the indies the first time around, I was very, very green, didn't have much experience. I did a lot of, just paint by number matches, calling everything in the back and just kind of going out there and doing moves with no real psychology. I didn't really work with that many guys that I can remember the first time around that was like a veteran, like that's been around for a long, because I've only been on the indies for like a year, and then I got my OVW break. So it wasn't very long. But post indies, when I came back, now I had all this experience under my belt. Now I had experience as a trainer. Now I got this experience from being on the road and knowing how to work TV and doing house shows. And so I felt like the guy that I felt a lot more comfortable working with the younger talent, or even guys that were the same level of experience as me. Just being able to go out there and call matches in the ring a lot more. I felt more confident. And it was just cool to work with just a bunch of different guys. Just different styles. Going all around the world, whether it was Japan, Africa, Europe. Here in the States, everywhere I went was just different, so you always had to adjust and just to accommodate to what the people want that day and night. But for the most part, and at the same time, it's still a job, get paid at the end of the day. So nothing really changed as far as that goes. But yeah, man, I felt more confident and just kind of felt more like I belonged and, just more experienced. That's the difference.
What's your favorite place you've wrestled outside the States? You've wrestled all over the world. What's your favorite city?
Australia, definitely. Sydney, Melbourne. God, the people are on fire there. We did a match a few years ago against the Young Bucks, and just really completely tore the house down. And very, very, just great fans, and the hospitality was amazing there. And it was just a lot of fun. So I'll always remember my experiences from Australia. So it was cool.
When you work internationally and you go from country to country, do you see the drastic differences from country to country that you do here in the States, just going from territory to territory, wrestling in the Northeast versus the South versus out West? Do you see those drastic changes from country to country?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, every town you go to, every country you go to, even every state you go to, it's just the crowd's different. Sometimes their expectations are a little bit different, and you got to figure that out. And when you're in WWE and you do that, it's not necessarily the case because it's the WWE product, and the fans are coming to see the WWE product, so they just want to see what you've been doing on TV. So you don't really change that much what you do, if that makes sense. With the indies, it's different because you're out there, you're by yourself, and sometimes they want to see wrestling. Sometimes they want to see comedy. Sometimes they want violence, sometimes, they just want you to go, they want you to go old school, and you can take an arm or a headlock and sit there for freaking 5 minutes and they're going to get with it, where you can't really do that in New York, so to say, or, they'll probably eat you up alive, because it's just a different atmosphere, and different expectations. So, it was cool, man. Europe, just a lot of just different wrestling, not as much for me, not as much character driven stuff, but it's like good mat wrestling, good chain wrestling, and then, you go to Australia and you kind of just do like a little bit of the opposite, and they want to see some good wrestling, but they want to see some good character work, and they want to, the promos are very important there, and so, yeah, it was just different everywhere you went.
All right. I always close all of my interviews with 5 rapid fire questions, some having to do with wrestling, some not. I got yours queued up. You ready?
All right, ready to go.
What's your favorite food?
Pizza.
That's a good pick. Always love pizza.
New York pizza, that is.
Oh, that's I always ask. I figured as a New Yorker, I was gonna to ask. Do you like
the New York style?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yep.
Pizza's always my go-to pick. What's your favorite venue you've ever had a chance to wrestle in?
I mean, I got to go Madison Square Garden just because it's Madison Square Garden, and I got to wrestle Piper on 9/11, and my parents were there, my friends and family were there, and it was I mean, how can you top that, right?
You can't beat Madison Square Garden against Piper, like that. That's up there. Who was your favorite superstar growing up?
Bret the Hitman Hart. Yep, he was my guy. Yep, I used to dress up as him when I was a kid. I put the sharpshooter on my brother, and everything was about Bret. Man, I was the biggest Bret Hart fan.
Did you ever have a chance to use the sharpshooter in a match as an homage to Bret? Did you ever pull it out?
I never did actually. Come to think of it, I just never was in the forte. I just never did it. Yeah, I used to Cloverleaf. I was also a fan of Dean Malenko. But no, just never did the sharpshooter for some reason.
I've never asked anybody that. For some reason, it just popped into my head when you said Bret Hart. I was like, I wonder if he ever used the sharpshooter.
Yeah.
What's your favorite movie?
Oh, my favorite movie. Ace Ventura: Pet Detective.
Fantastic movie.
Yeah. Oh man, I memorized that movie from A to Z. I remember at one point.
That was huge. When I
huge.
That mid-90s push, Jim Carrey was the top of the comedy game.
Killer. Yep.
What is your favorite vacation spot?
Oh, vacation spot. Vacation spot. I don't take many vacations these days, but if I got to pick one, uh, huh. Oh, actually, you know what? I take it back. I mean, I went to Cancun once. That was really sweet. I had a freaking great ass time there. This is when I was 28. I went there. Anywhere, yeah, the Caribbean, the tropical. I'm a big beach person. Anything with the sun. I'm a very happy man. Yep.
Excellent. Mike, this is my favorite part of the episode because I don't have to say anything. I just get to sit here, take a minute or two, plug your stuff, tell everybody what you have going on in your world and where they can find you.
Sure. All right. In a nutshell, yeah. If you want to book me, Mike Mondo, for a wrestling appearance, a seminar, you can contact me at themikemondo at gmail.com. Again, I do those match breakdowns with the Mondo Boot Camp. Pick the Mind of Mondo. $20. I'll dissect your match from A to Z. You can email me at the same address I just said. Hit me up on Twitter at the Mike Mondo. I'm also the head trainer at NYWC Wrestling School in Long Island, New York. If you're interested in joining, you're in the area, you want a private lesson, I do that as well. Again, just hit me up and we'll make an appointment. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Excellent, Mike. I appreciate you stopping by and chat about some wrestling with me.
Hey, thanks a lot, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Now, as we close another episode of Botched, Bots, and Chair Shots, I want to take a minute and thank you for listening. Remind you, go wherever you do anything on the internet. Like, follow, subscribe, unsubscribe, then subscribe again. For Mike Mondo, I am the Will Gray. Thanks for stopping by and listening, my people.